Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Hello, the viewing public. My name is Diane Monteith, and I am the chair of the Green Communities Committee. The first thing I'd like to do is thank everyone for their cooperation in the last months that we have been together as a committee. You may have seen the flyer for this evening's meeting out on the web and also in the stores. And so it does have information that we'd like you to notice in the future after this evening before the town meeting. And you may have seen the article in the Council on Aging booklet that comes out every month, the Tiffany Times, and we'd welcome everyone to read that. It can also be found online. We are also on the nahant.org website, where you can pull up under committees the Green Committee. And there we have the program information as well as our minutes. So after each meeting, we do have minutes that are approved. We do follow the open meeting law, and you're welcome to look on those minutes. And the public is always welcome to our meetings. We do post the meetings at least 48 hours, if not more, before the meeting schedule. Approximately every other Monday. We've been meeting since October 30th. What I'd like to do next is introduce Enzo Burrill. Enzo, the Board of Selectmen Chair, initiated the committee. And Enzo, would you come up and tell us a little bit about how that came about, please?
Okay, thank you. How it started with me, I got a telephone call from one of my good friends that works in the State House, Tony Barletta. And he was telling me about the green communities. And he said, would you mind talking to this fellow, Neil Duffy, who's here with us tonight, who, by the way, is from Swampscott. He has relatives in Nahant and has been so helpful and has done so much work with this committee over the past 4 or 5 months. We have to really congratulate and thank him for all of that. So I initiated it. She's right. I got it going. And Diane took control. Diane always takes control of me, even when I was a little kid. So Diane took control and is the chairman, and she's done a phenomenal job. I have to really, I congratulate her. She took an awful lot of pressure off of me, I can tell you that, because I've been extremely busy lately. So, and then of course we have the rest of the committee here, and I'm sure Diane's going to introduce them all and go through the whole thing, the whole procedure. So, thank you.
Thank you. I was elected by the committee before they knew me, so it was day one and it's Chet's fault. So thank you very much. What we'd like to do now is let each committee member introduce themselves, okay? So why don't we start over here with our facilitator.
Hi, I'm Abby Roberts.
Just a little bit, can you tell about your program management background?
I work for Turner Construction. I'm a senior project manager. I'm an engineer by training, so a lot of this is familiar to me. I've been coming to Nahant my whole life. My grandmother lived here. Her name was Wei Swaim. Some of you may have known her. But it's really a special town, and I'm really happy to be part of this committee.
Thank you, and you have your family here too, so welcome. And
next generation.
That's right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Chet Hopkins. I've been living in Nahant for about 3 years. And I come from an environmental engineering background, about 15, 20 years of that, and I really enjoy being on the committee. It's a great group of people, and it's a great opportunity for the town, and I hope everybody gets behind it.
Hi, I'm Nicole Gogan. I've been here for almost 18 years, and I'm in marketing communications.
I'm Ellen Goldberg. I live on Highland Road. I've been here since 2001. And for my day job, I manage operations, finance, and technology for a nonprofit that gets toxic chemicals out of products in the supply chain. So this was a really nice way for me to segue professional life into really doing something good for the town. And they really matched up very well. There's good alignment. So happy to be here.
And Ellen is the vice chair, may I say, and really appreciate your support and good works. And Ellen is running in the marathon on Monday, so I want everybody to think about Ellen. Go Ellen! And that was in the paper. It was awesome.
Hi, I'm Margaret Alexander. I grew up in Nahant, and I've been active in a lot of environmental issues, so this was a great chance for me to be active locally.
Hi, I'm Johnny Zimmerman Ward. I've lived here for 10 years and contractor for EPA, so this sounded good.
Thank you. And we also have Terry Motley and Lisa Haley, who are not with us today. They had another engagement. Oh, hello. Lisa. There's Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. All right. And now I'd like to turn the program over to, well, we have Neil Duffy, the Northeast Regional Manager of the Massachusetts area agent.
Northeast Regional Coordinator of the Green Communities Division for Mass DOER, which is the Department of Energy Resources. But I believe Abby will be the main MC, and I will speak when I need to.
Sure. So tonight we're going to tell you guys a little bit about the Green Communities Program, what the benefits are, how the designation process works, and also open it up to the audience if you guys have any questions or any ideas to help us moving forward. The grant program is a program, as we've been talking about, by DOER that grants about $20 million a year to qualifying municipalities to help fund projects that reduce energy costs and save town money. We had talked about there are already, half the municipalities in Massachusetts are already part of this program, and here are some of the numbers of funds they've received from the state so far. So we're estimating $129,000 would be the initial grant for Nahant, should we qualify for this designation. So obviously we've been talking about it saves some money. These grants allow us to do upgrades that we probably already need to do in the town. It helps us reduce our energy costs and save the town overall money. More efficient, cost-effective construction helps us set the example to be the leaders in clean energy, having better places to work, better environments, and be part of the protection of the planet to reduce our carbon footprint. We all know we need to stop the greenhouse gases. So a couple of the projects that we're already researching are converting the Johnson School into LED and adding control lighting, convert town street lights to LED, and evaluate all the existing municipal buildings, heating systems to find more cost-effective ways, natural gas, etc. Some of the numbers that we are already looking at, you can see here on the left is the estimates for the Johnson School. On the right are the street light costs that we are currently spending. Both these projects are estimating a reduction about 60%. So how did we, Diane spoke a little bit on how we became a Green Communities Committee. We were established in September 2017 to apply for a designation of this year, October. And there were 5 criteria that Nahant has to meet. So Neil, if you could talk a little bit about the criteria.
Sure. So I just want to add to the benefits that Abby was talking about. So if Nahant were designated as a green community, the initial designation grant would be $129,000. But also Nahant would then be eligible to participate in our competitive grant rounds, which are, those grants are capped at $250,000 and they're annual. So as long as the town has spent down any previous grants, you would be eligible for those annual grants of $250,000. And that's why on that map of some of the neighboring towns, some of those numbers are getting upwards towards $1 million. So that's when you really start to see the benefits is after a couple of years in the program. In terms of the designation criteria, so there are 5 hoops essentially that you need to jump through as a municipality to be designated as a green community. The first two involve by right zoning for renewable energy or alternative energy generating, manufacturing, or research and development facilities. In Nahant, because of its small size, we'll be applying for a waiver for that to meet that criteria, which is a similar path that the town of Winthrop took. And that's because there really is nowhere to zone those types of facilities within the town. So that is the path going forward, and the committee's been working on that waiver request. The third criteria is really what we call the term paper of green communities, and that's developing a energy use baseline and then a reduction plan to reduce that baseline by 20% in 5 years. Fourth is a fuel efficient vehicle purchase policy. And then the fifth criteria is to adopt the stretch energy code. And we're going to talk a little bit more about all of these in detail. So the third criteria, like I said, that's the main amount, the major amount of work that's involved. And it is inventorying all your town buildings and fuel use and any energy that the town uses, meaning municipal facilities, so not businesses and residences. And then it is developing a plan to reduce that by 20% in 5 years.
So currently, we have established our baseline. We've collected inventory and actual usage trends. We've established 2017 will be our baseline moving forward. And we're in the process of developing a plan to help make these reductions. These plans, in this reduction plan, will identify certain projects that this funding, we're hoping the grants will be applied towards and implementing. This is the current status of our 2017 energy usage. This is our baseline. You can see electric costs are our major component. The street lights, electric, we saw some slides earlier. Oil costs, diesel, gasoline, and natural gas. So it all totals up to all of the municipal costs we have in town.
So the fourth criteria is to adopt a fuel-efficient vehicle purchase policy, and that is something that is adopted by both the Board of Selectmen and the schools. And what that means is that when the town is replacing a vehicle that is not exempt, then they will be replacing it with a vehicle that meets the fuel economy standards that we set at DOER. And an important part of this for people to realize is that emergency vehicles, police and fire, as well as heavy-duty vehicles like at the Department of Public Works are exempt. So they do not, they're exempt from the policy.
So right now we're working with all the relevant department heads. We've completed an inventory of all the municipal vehicles, and we're in the process of, we have drafted a fuel efficiency policy for the selectmen to review. Oh, geez. Ooh. Wow. Oh.
Fast presentation.
There we go. Here we go.
So the fifth criteria is adopting the stretch code, and I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about this because this is something that needs to be adopted and approved at town meeting, and this is the one measure that town meeting vote is required. And so there's an article on the upcoming warrant for the stretch code. So the stretch energy code is a more energy efficient energy code, and an important fact that you'll hear me say more than once tonight is that it does not apply to additions and renovations. It only applies to new residential construction or new commercial construction over 100,000 square feet. You can easy. So, like I said, it requires new residential construction to meet a HERS rating target, and I'll talk a little bit about what that is in a minute. In the statute, what the criteria is saying is that the town needs to have a policy in place where the life cycle costs of new construction will be reduced, and so stretch code is the way that you can do that. So a HERS rating is, you think of it as like a miles per gallon for a home. It's just a way to measure the efficiency of a home. So the required rating for stretch code is a 55. So what happens is a HERS rater, which is a building professional, HERS stands for Home Energy Rating System. A HERS rater, if you're building a new home, will come in and model the home before it's built based on the design documents and provide a HERS rating at that point. And if it's not meeting a 55, then they will make recommendations on how to get it to a 55. And then they will do some inspections during construction, and then they do the same modeling at the end of construction. So what does a HERS rating mean for new construction? So what it means, there are a couple things. So let me step back quickly. So in Nahant now, if I were building a new home, what you have in place is the base energy code. And the base energy code allows two paths to compliance. There's a prescriptive path and there's a performance path. And the prescriptive path is that you're required to install certain measures in your home, like a boiler of a certain efficiency. And the performance path requires that HERS rating, and the performance of the home needs to be verified. So that exists now if someone's building a new home in Nahant. And what the stretch code says is that you can only follow that performance path. You're not able to follow the prescriptive path. And so what the advantages are to the performance path is that you're verifying the performance of the home. And so if you're following these prescriptive measures, you don't necessarily know that the home is performing at the level that you think it might be, because the air ducts may not be as tight as they need to be, the insulation may not be installed correctly. So the HERS rating verifies that the home's performing the way it should be. For builders, what we've heard is that many builders prefer the performance path because they can approach the home in a more holistic way and look at the home as more of a system, so that in the prescriptive path, they may be required to do something that is not easy to do, like install insulation in an area of the roof or the attic that's not easy to get to. But in the performance path, they have a little bit more flexibility on what they can do, as long as they can get that 55 rating. There is an added cost to the HERS rater. A HERS rater is involved now with the base energy code, but the HERS rater would be doing this modeling in addition to what they normally do. So that's an added cost, and then whatever the added costs of the measures would be, and that usually comes anywhere between like $500 to $2,000, but with the rebates that you get for those measures, as well as the energy savings, what we've found is no matter the heating source, the homeowner would be cash flow positive in the first year. So currently there are actually, and this map was just updated, so there's now 217 cities and towns that have adopted the stretch code. There are 210 green communities, so that those 7 are ones that will likely be green communities coming this fall. So over 70% of the population in Massachusetts lives in a stretch code community, and your neighbors, Swampscott, Salem, Saugus, Revere, Beverly, it's on the warrant in Marblehead. So it's well understood and has been in place for quite some time.
So as Neil said, we do have this as a warrant. It's Article 37. So I urge you all to come to town meeting to vote yes on this. This is a critical piece for us to achieve the green community status. We did review this with our building inspector, Wayne Wilson, and he told us that most of the construction that's happening in Nahant is already at this level, so it's not a big stretch. So if we get this article passed at the town meeting, we will be able to complete all of our criteria and submit for October 28th. We anticipate finding out if we receive the designation in December, and then we can start some of these projects in early 2019. We are already putting the groundwork out to start some of the projects that we mentioned earlier. So that's what we've been working on, and I would love to open it up to anybody's here today. If you have any questions or any ideas, please step up to the microphone.
Well, 3 quick questions. One is, with respect to the housing part of it, is this applicable only to new construction?
Correct, only new construction.
Okay. And then with the automobile part of it, I didn't really see any definitions or parameters of what energy efficient would constitute.
Yeah, so those are set by us, and it's by vehicle class. So you have like, 2-wheel drive cars, 4-wheel drive cars, so on and so on, light duty trucks. And I don't have that, the fuel economy standards memorized. But essentially what the policy that the town would be adopting is saying that when you're replacing vehicles, they will meet the criteria that we set. For example, for light-duty pickup trucks, like a Ford F-150 meets our policy. For SUVs, like a Ford Escape would be compliant with our policy.
Yeah, we were actually surprised on the list on the amount of vehicles that are already getting the fuel efficiency. So it's a decent list.
So would this extend to, say, hybrid vehicles or things like that?
Hybrid vehicles would absolutely meet the policy, but I guess the point is that we're not demanding that you're replacing a Ford pickup truck with an electric vehicle, though we would be certainly happy if you did that.
Okay. My last question is a little bit on the speculative side. Every time I walk past Short Beach, I notice that there are varying mounds of seaweed, which sometimes are pretty smelly. And it seems like there have been attempts to clean that up, but, it's hard to do. But somebody told me recently that it makes good fertilizer. But I'm also wondering if anybody has thought of the idea of seeing if it can be turned into a usable form of energy. In other words, dried and burned, something like that, so that would actually make the town more energy efficient because it would have a free source of energy.
It's a very interesting concept.
It's a great idea, and it's funny that you said that because, as Enzo mentioned, I live in Swampscott, so I certainly have smelled the smells on Kings Beach, and I've thought the same thing, that like, are we, just as I'm sitting in traffic, are we, sitting on a gold mine here that we're not aware of because it smells so bad? But I don't know that anyone has studied that particular algae bloom. But it's a good. You and I think the same way for sure.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea because I can tell you, I failed to say that I am retired from an electric utility after 25 years as an account executive working with municipalities, commercial and industrial businesses. And one of those businesses was Lindt Chocolate. Well, they actually had the idea to take the shells from their cocoa beans, and we burn those in one of our generating plants. So somebody thought that was a wild idea, but guess what? It worked. So when you're talking about biomass and any of these things, bring on the questions and ideas, because that's how we move forward. It's not a charge of our committee, but certainly as we go forward and get this business done, we hope to continue and do things like that for our town. So please hold that thought and explore it. Thank you.
One thing I just want to, I'll mention and sort of plug, and so the Green Communities Division, we serve all 351 cities and towns, so, Nahant looks like we'll be a designated green community. I mean, you're on the path to doing that, but even if you were not, you should be considering me and our division as a resource. And one other grant program that we have are technical assistance grants, and a lot of what those grants fund is studies. So that would be on the outside realm of that type of study, but if it seems like a feasible study and a proposal was put in, usually it's for studying feasibility for like solar and storage, or converting a building from oil to electric or something like that. But there are some grants that we have, and also the Mass Clean Energy Center have some more innovative partnerships with commercial businesses that do that sort of work. So there's certainly opportunity there, and I think that one of the less quantifiable benefits of being a green community is that you tend to be sort of tapped in to those opportunities in a way that you may not be otherwise, and that's just simply because I'm sort of aware of what's going on in Nahant, and you're also a little bit more aware of what the state is up to. So and you learn more about what other green communities are doing. So I just wanted to mention that.
Anyone else? Come up to the mic.
Thanks. Yes, just a quick question about beginning projects in 2019. So achieving the designation, were it to be approved by December, so does that mean now then the town applies for funding to begin projects, or is there work that can be done? How does that work? What's the timeline?
So once we get the designation, we get the funding in January, I believe?
Yeah,
the initial piece of it.
So when you get designated, once you're designated, then the town would then apply for the projects that you want to use that designation funding for. And so one of the reasons that the third criteria, developing that energy reduction plan, is a lot of work, but also one of the reasons it's really important is that the idea is that you're developing your menu of projects, and so they're essentially ready to go at that point. So then it's a matter of choosing which ones you want to fund first. And so the town would then apply for those projects. We would approve them, and then once a contract is established between DOER and the town for those projects, and we approve them, we give an effective date, and then the town can start doing the work. So the work can't start right when you're designated. It has to happen a little bit later.
And I'd just like to add that we have already begun audits because we targeted through the gathering of information. For example, the school uses the most energy, and as you can see, the electrical energy, and then next is the town hall. So we've already begun. We had 2 audits of the school lighting. So those audits have been completed, and we have 2 proposals, and we're ready to go, and it's just about funding. So we're looking at other mechanisms as well, bill repayment plan, anything that the utilities have to offer. We'd like to take advantage of those programs, and for the good of the town. So we still have some things that we're considering even before this program begins. The street lighting, we have had proposals already. There's a lot to it. Each and every measure has quite a few steps to them, and we've identified those steps in the case of the street lighting. And also technology changes, and we're going to benefit from the newer technology. For example, our lighting won't be as harsh and bright and white as some of the surrounding towns. It's gotten softer and more palatable for folks. We'd also like to have an audit of every streetlight just to make sure we don't have too many, they're in the right place. You know, that audit costs about $7,000. I've already asked for the money, digging for the money, but we'll see. We will have that done because that's a requirement in order to go forward with the conversion. So we are in the process of looking at the projects already and using the information that we have. So, anything else?
Just a separate question about sort of lost energy. So we've noticed there are several gas leaks around town. Just by smell, you can detect them. So is there anything under this umbrella that can help to remediate those? And is the town paying for that lost gas, or how does that work?
That's a good question. Can anybody answer that? Okay. Nick Bokron, our committee member.
Basically, I brought forth an article last year's warrant dealing with the gas leaks. It's Nahat actually disproportionately has a large amount of gas leaks for the small amount of area that we're in. The customer pays for them. Unless they get to a certain degree, the gas company sort of puts them off, and it just, whatever. I would have liked to have had it on the warrant again this year, that article, and I thought that the selectmen were behind it, but I'm not sure what's happening, so maybe we can do something moving forward to where it's a town ordinance where you suggest within 5 years they fix all the gas leaks. Some of the other towns have had problems where they'll come in, dig up a road that was just paved and not properly addressed it. So there's certain amounts of things. It's not anything to do with the green communities, but it's something that I would have liked to have actually seen on the warrant again this year, and I sort of didn't pay attention to, I guess.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is the Green Communities grants wouldn't fund anything to address the gas leaks in town. I think there's MAPC, which is the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, did a study and released a white paper on the gas leaks. And actually, Swampscott was part of the study last year. So if you go to their website, and I can leave you my business card. I'd be happy to send that to you. But there's a lot of information there about how the utilities deal with gas leaks, how towns and utilities work together. A lot of recommended best practices for how that can be improved. And so it is certainly a issue. And it's a complicated one. So, but if it's something that you're interested in, I'd be happy to send you that information.
And you talked a little bit about the efficiencies of buildings as well, or were you specific to gas when you talked about efficiencies? Well, I just wanted to add that, you know, we're looking at upgrading heating systems, but part of this process is evaluate the energy efficiency of the building and the building envelope. So there might be other projects that we can do to help the municipal buildings keep everything in. Right?
Has anybody evaluated the school for solar feasibility?
Yes. I think there's 2 companies we've been talking with about putting it on the roof. Yep.
The good news is that the roof is only 1 year old. It's a rubber roof. It's flat. It's perfect for solar. So that is on the list. Really good opportunity there. Really good opportunity. We don't use less energy, but we don't have to pay for the energy. So get that. You know, it's not an energy reduction because you still use the energy. So that's why we have to do those other measures to reduce the energy, and at the same time, use the renewable option. Anything else? Yes?
So Nick was talking about the gas leaks in Massachusetts. There is a class action suit about them. So if anybody does have a gas leak, they should report it. Some of the ways you can tell if you have a gas leak is a sudden death of a tree, the grass. If you notice that the weeds are all dying around your house, which everybody really wants. gas leaks usually show up that way. And they will, I mean, there is a class action suit against them. They will replace trees. There's a tree program going on right now for that. So we always report it, and we are. The Board of Selectmen did vote to have them take care of that or try to, move forward with it.
Anything else? Any other questions? No? Okay, shall we wrap it up? Okay, thank you so much for coming, everyone, and please look forward to the progress that we make. We'll share it with you on our website as well as perhaps another meeting, and feel free to contact any one of us at any time to discuss any ideas that you may have, because we want to save the town money. When costs are rising, we want to reduce the costs, and we want to be green, so please join us in that effort, okay? And please vote, yes. Because, the stretch code is not a stretch. It was called a stretch code back in the 90s because there was a big difference between the base energy code and what was being looked for. But in the years that have passed, that base code has come closer to the actual code that is today's base code, if that made sense. The point is, it's not a big stretch. There is not that much difference. The big difference is that it's a performance base, which is good for the builder, good for the customer, and it is a cost to have that HERS rating, but you will benefit from it and pay for it with the energy savings. But we need your vote, because without that stretch code approval at the town meeting, we can't go forward with any of this green designation. So please come. It'll be at the sort of the end of the docket, and we'd love to have you come and vote in favor, just because it helps all of us. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a good evening.